Welcome, everybody. This is Cathedral Creates Podcast. And here we like to tell the stories of what God's doing in our community. And we believe that his fingerprints are all over all these folks in this community. And we want to highlight some of those, so that we want to take some of these stories and we want to share them with you. And hopefully it inspires you to see God at work in your story too, that you too are called to live a creative lifestyle, to create the life that you love. And today I have the distinct honor of interviewing this wonderful, beautiful woman who happens to be my wife. And wow, this guy's lucky. So thank you. So thank you so much for being here. A lot of people from Cathedral will know that you are a creative. Of course, you're usually doing the music. They know that about you. You dress very stylish and things like that. But there's another side of you too. And I wanted to highlight this project because I think it's not just beautiful, it's powerful in the way that you're trying to capture your family story and hand that down to the next generation. And how you did it was just, I thought, a beautiful, honoring way. And so, and I think that it's powerful because I think it can help other people realize that, hey, you have the power to harness this story of your life and tell this story.
Yeah.
And so, let's talk about this project.
Absolutely. So I come from a big family. I love my family. I have tias, grandma, and I feel like I've been given so much. So my grandma is an incredible woman. She cooks like crazy. Everybody knows. She's a seamstress. She made my wedding dress. She just has so many gifts. And then there's just this rich culture of family loyalty. So I was like, how do I take this and how do I pass it on to Zion? How do I pass it on to the next generation? How do I hold on to it when everybody's getting older? So I thought about making a cookbook. And so my aunts got together. We got everybody's recipes together, put them in here. We took pictures of every single thing so that I wanted pictures of exactly what it is that I've grown up with. Then my aunt did a dedication in here, and she dedicated to my cousins and I, and it said, these are the three things that have enriched our life: faith, family, and food. Faith is, of course, that feeds our souls. Family enriches us with our values, our culture, and our traditions. And food nourishes your body, enhances our taste, but it brings us together.
Yeah.
And so in here, there's those. And then I put pictures also. I have pictures of my grandmother's hands while she's cooking. I have pictures of us. I don't know what that word is for that picture that just kind of says something about your life. There's a word for that. But there's some pictures in here where it's all 6 of us around a table. And I'm like, this is like the depth where my strength comes from. This is where my identity comes from. There's so much. It's not just a picture of a party. There's deep roots that come into it. And so we were able to do this, make copies, gave it to everybody, but then the grandkids, the great-grandkids get this. I already printed one for Zion. I want to give it to his wife one day, and then I want to have another copy to give to my grandkids one day. But it's this, taking the time to say, this is valuable. And I think the part of it was, I had been given so much, and I wanted to be a good steward of it and not have to look back later and be like, I wish I would have this, or I can't remember this, or do that. And then I think there's another way to do this too. I also did this when my dad passed away. I got everything together, took pictures of everything, and anything that I could find that was important about my dad, I put it all in one book. I can't tell you how much I cried while I did that book. But I put it together and I made copies for my brothers and for everybody. And whenever I need to go back and remember something, I can go to that book, and there's prayers that he wrote. There's words that he spoke over Zion from the first day he met Zion. And I was like, that stuff's priceless. One day I can tell Zion, but he might not. Zion's my son. One day he might not remember. And I can't be the only one who this flows through. So I was like, I need to put it on paper so that I can hand it to him. And my thought was, one day when mom and dad aren't here, me and Vaughn aren't here, Zion's going to be able to open up that book and to be able to look and speak the words, see the words, and read the words that his grandfather spoke and prophesied over him, and read what, who his legacy is. He never got to really meet his grandpa because he died when Zion was 6 months old. But I wanted him to be able to know, this is what's inside of you. This is who you are. So that, we all go through identity crises, right? We all wonder, where at every age, even me at certain times, I'm like, God, where am I? Am I on the right focus? And sometimes going back to these things and being like, there's purpose in this. We all are put into a family and a culture and for a reason, and he draws good out of that. So I also, after I did those two, I did one for my three younger, my brothers, when they, at a certain time, gave them a book of everything I could collect from their childhood so that they could remember their father. They could remember this. And then I made one for my nephew as well when he graduated from high school. And I put all these things in there. And all of those three, the boys that I made for it, looked back and were like, I didn't know this, or I didn't realize this.
Or remember.
Or I didn't remember this. And then losing our father, all those books have pictures of my dad in them. And so all of them have something to go back to tangibly touch, to be like, this is where I come from, this is who I am.
Yeah. It's almost like how we remember and learn and know God through the Word, right? We have something we can touch, we have something that we can refer to. And sometimes we just refer to our memories, and sometimes our memories fail us.
Yeah.
And so there's something really powerful about doing the work. Now, speaking of the work, this wasn't easy. This is a very strenuous task. So maybe talk about just the creative effort, like the work, that the elbow grease that you had to put into making this.
So it wasn't just me. My aunt was really helpful. She actually, it's taken us a couple of years to get through this because she's been going through chemotherapy and all this stuff, but it was like something that was important to everybody. So she would collect them, we take pictures, email them. I did it on Shutterfly, which there's so many other things that you can do it on. And it was just downloading pictures, uploading, taking the pictures. So it was a process. And because we're super busy and doing a million other things, I can only do it a little bit at a time. And at times I put it away. And then at other times I spend a lot of time. So that ended up, taking a while, but I'm sure if you put more times, it wouldn't take that long. But for me, it took a couple of years.
There's something that's gained in that exchange, though, too, the work, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I also, on the bottom, which I think is very important, I put quotes from my grandmother on the bottom. My grandma has these amazing one-liners that'll get you and make you laugh as well. So we collected those, and the conversations that you have, like, oh, you used to say this, why did you say that, where'd it come from? That happened, and then also just the exchange of being like, look at what we created when we worked together. And I got to realize how creative my aunt is in ways that I never knew she was. And then the honor of it. To give it to my grandmother, I can't tell you what it meant to her and how proud she was to just show her sisters, to be like, look at this. This is a cookbook with this is how she loves. This is how she serves, is by cooking.
That's deep.
And so then for me to honor that and be like, this is how much it means to us.
I think, too, like, for the older generations, like, that our grandmothers and even our mothers, to a lot of, that having a book of their own was like, that's only for the select few, right? You had to be a known author or a publisher or whatever. But now we have so many resources at our fingertips to harness these stories and to package them in a way that, wow, we can tell our story too. And what that means to, your grandmother, to be like, this is your legacy that is going to live on beyond you. Absolutely. And what I like about this too is, like, sometimes we think about art and creativity as it's just a desire, it's fun, it's joyful. But I think there's also a side of it that's really meaningful. Like, it's very almost spiritual in the sense of, like, telling the story, telling the story, and how the food, the creative, like the nuances of these dishes that are that your grandmothers or your aunts, they're their own, right? They've made them their own. Yeah. It fed your soul all these years, and now you can take these recipes and put them into action, and it's really, really powerful. Yeah. And so talk about the practicality of, like, how someone who's listening, what resources did you use to make this book?
So Shutterfly is so easy because they have cookbook templates.
Yeah, templates.
So I just got to pick my own, and then you can do it just very simply, or you can just go in, and there's so many things there, but you could go in and do the edit yourself, and so that I could get more detailed, because I wanted it to be super special and detailed, not just like I inserted the photos and this is what came out. So I think that was the process, and then of course just bringing other people who are, like, my aunt is great at cooking. She knows all the different things, so she edited everything to make sure it was good. Taking pictures at every event, making sure, like, hey, it is important sometimes to just stop and take a picture, or to be like, you know, I take for granted that I have tamales every Christmas. But it was until I made this cookbook, I was like, does anybody have a picture of the tamales?
Yeah.
No, nobody had one.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so it was like, let's take a
Take
picture.
it for granted.
Yeah, like the salsa recipe where we always give out salsas to people. Did anybody write it down? Nobody had written it down.
Yeah.
And so now it's written down in here. So I think it's just very simple, and there's a way that you want to put your taste into it. I also, because I put so many different people's aunts in there, I put a little signature by it, like a picture. My grandmother loves roses. Hers is a rose. My mom loves little birds. I put a bird in. So then at each recipe, I put that picture right next to it. So that way it doesn't say Tia's salsa, Grandma's this. It just, you look at the picture and you know whose it is. It's like a symbol that's their symbol.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think the last thing I think just to say is that there are some certain things that Dad would say when I put in his book, and it just was like, I would be like, Irene, you're a sharp pencil. Like, just certain things. And I like wrote those in there. And so it's that kind of a place, like when you go back to the word and you say, what has God said about me? God sometimes says things to us through the people that he's put around us.
100.
And to say like, I value that, and to be like, let me go remember who I am and what God has given me, and then what can I do with that? I can pass that on and give that identity to someone else.
You know, something I think is really powerful to knowing this story, you personally, and this creative effort, is that, and this is no slant at all, is you're not the best cook in the world.
I am not. I need a recipe. I cannot just go and be like, let me see what this needs. Da, 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 da. No, I need you to spell it out. I need to know how much, and I need to do that.
So, in other words, it's not what you would consider your strength.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you were someone to say to your younger self, you're going to make a cookbook. Like, what?
Absolutely.
Right? But, yeah, it's like what the phrase that you just said, like, what's in your hands?
Yeah,
what can you do?
Absolutely.
And so, like, we have this phrase here at the podcast, put it on the canvas. And so it's just getting started, inertia, get things moving. Someone might be looking at something like this and be like, this is too much work. I can't do this. What would you say to them? What can they do, like, to put it on the canvas this week?
I like what you just said. I was like, what do you have in your hands? And I think that if it's been put there, then just start somewhere. I've been talking about this for years, but I took one step. So what do you have in your hands, and what's the first step that you can take out of that? And then speak it. I put it out. Hey, I'm gonna make a cookbook. I had no idea how I was gonna do it. And like, so what are you gonna do? I don't know. And then after, hey, can you do this? And then and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna look this up. And then, so I think it's just what is in your hands. Take that first step, and speak it out. Just say it. Even if you don't know how to do it, if it's something like, I need to do this, then just speak it. And then God's going to show you the steps after
That's
to
so
do that.
good. Yeah, words have a way of framing your reality.
Absolutely.
And once you put it out there, I'm making a cookbook. And now there's this expectation, and there's this direction now that you can start to step in.
Absolutely.
So that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing this.
Absolutely.
I don't just love this just because you're my wife. I love this because this is a great idea. Like, I'm inspired to do it for my side of the family, like my mom's egg rolls and things like that are just, they're unique to our family. And I think every one of you have something that's beautifully unique. You have a fingerprint of God on you that no one else in the world can replicate. And part of our creative mandate, part of our spiritual mandate, is to tell that story by telling your story. So maybe look at your family. Maybe it's not a cookbook. Maybe it's a picture book. Maybe it's some other kind of collection of stories and memories. But what can you pass on to the next generation? I believe that's our call and our mandate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you so much for being here. This week, Cathedral of Faith, look at ways that you can put it on the canvas. Stay locked in. We're going to come up with more episodes of Cathedral Creates. Thanks for tuning in.
Woo!